What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I will do my MCU Phase 4. And this Phase 4 will be, all the movies that I have planned. This will have probably some things that Marvel might be doing. But for the most part, this is very different from Marvel's Phase 4 lineup. Like, I don't think any of their movies are even on this list. Maybe some of their potential stuff, but I don't think any of their movies from Phase 4 is in my Phase 4. So I find that to be very interesting because I at least have a couple of movies left over from them that I care. So without further ado, let's really get into it. And what's going to kick off Phase 4, or theatrically anyways, I do have a certain other video about Disney Plus. But what's going to kick off Phase 4 theatrically is The Amazing Spider-Man 3, directed by Mark Webb, released May 7th, 2021. The story is about post-Avengers and Gwen Stacy's death. Peter is down on his luck. He has a new roommate named Eddie Brock, but for the most part, Peter's been pretty down. He doesn't want to be Spider-Man due to all the pain it gives him, but he still does it out of an obligation to do it like it's a full-time job that he has to do. One day, the black symbiote, which has been left over from Infinity War and Secret Wars, has somewhat attached to Peter's body. And it's given him the adrenaline to be Spider-Man again. It's given him, a boost of confidence and ego, and it's also made him stronger and more agile as Spider-Man. However, as I said, it has its effects on him where his attitude gets worse and it starts to kind of feed on him a bit. There is this former filmmaker named Mysterio who's trying to make a name for himself by becoming a brand new hero. And how's he doing it? By doing it the wrong way. See, it's an act Mysterio is an act where he pretends to save people by doing fake illusions and doing fake setups of saving people, and he's not really saving people. It's all set up while he also commits, bank robberies around that time. So it's a whole thing. It's a whole what is heist that Mysterio is doing. And it's pretty much a whole stage setup where he's lied to the public that he's a new superhero after post Avengers and people being more vulnerable. They want superheroes now more than ever because they literally saved the universe. So now they are indeed more open to more superheroes being around before they previously I meant to say until previously where they weren't, now they are, especially due to Iron Man's sacrifice. So, of course, what Mysterio is doing is fake, and Spider-Man is slowly getting into his plans. So Mysterio decides to set up Spider-Man as a villain by showing an illusion of Spider-Man stealing something and becoming a criminal. So Peter tries to clear his name and stop Mysterio from his plans and overall expose his whole scheme that Mysterio is doing. Meanwhile, in Peter's personal life, he's slowly starting to get with MJ a bit, Mary Jane, and he's also starting to slowly piss off Eddie Brock because he's not there for when Eddie needs him. He's not supporting Eddie Brock. And overall, it's just not a good look for Peter until ultimately Eddie breaks when Peter isn't there for him the most. And the black symbiote, which at the time Peter officially broke off of, kind of goes on Eddie, and he becomes Venom, where he wants to freaking murder Spider-Man for his past actions. And so Venom teams up with Mysterio to destroy Spider-Man in front of everybody and to end the legacy known as Spider-Man. So that's pretty much what's going to happen with this movie. And ultimately, Peter does end up stopping Venom. What happens to Venom is that he knocks him out unconscious. He doesn't kill Venom, but Venom is severely hurt, and Eddie kind of runs away from now. Eddie doesn't go to jail or anything. Eddie just kind of goes on the run. It's clear that him and Peter are on very bad terms. And as for Mysterio, he gets turned in to the officers and all that stuff. But with the end credit scenes for The Amazing Spider-Man 3, Peter gets with MJ at the end of the movie, and Aunt May finds out that Peter is Spider-Man. Now, for the end credit scenes, one will be setting up Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and the other will be teasing Captain Marvel, which she might play a big role in the MCU in the future. Now, next up is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and this movie will stay the same. The only real changes in it is obviously Nebula and where she is in her life, where she did help the Avengers and Guardians kill Thanos in Infinity War, but now she's on her own, and now her main role is just to kill her sister because she wants to end her past of what she thought was suffering. And ultimately, since Thanos is dead, Nebula has solved things out with her sister, she ultimately decides to stick with the Guardians of the Galaxy at the end. Now, another thing that happens is the whole what age will be Groot? And Baby Groot was in Infinity War and Secret Wars. However, and I'll keep Baby Groot in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. However, he will grow into a teenager slash kid version of himself later. So that's what's really going to happen with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. All the end credit scenes will stay the same. And one end credit scene, however, will remove the Adam Warlock one. And we'll throw in the one that teases Captain Marvel a bit more. With Skrulls setting a chart towards Earth and wanting to go there. And this will be directed by James Gunn and will be released July 9th, 2021. Let's move on over to Captain Marvel, this movie that we've been hyping forever at this rate. And the origin story, I feel like the story for Captain Marvel is basic and would need a couple of tweaks. For starters, this will take place in modern day, post TASM 3, Infinity War, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And also, her partner in crime, instead of Nick Fury, will be Full Coulson. Monica Rambeau will be her best friend that she's been hanging out with, and she'll have a son that he looks up to Carol. And everybody would think Carol has been dead for 4 years, and that we haven't seen Carol in a while. It's been 4 years since her disappearance. A lot of people thought she died from this big plane crash, and instead she was taken by the Kree, who were hunting down this stuff. And we're going to set up the Kree. We set up the Kree Guardians of the Galaxy as, oh, they're these peacekeepers. Nah, they're really, well, they think they are peacekeepers. What they're really doing is that they're trying to kill the Skrulls, because the Skrulls have become their number one enemy, as they assume that they have. And Carol, she's trying to find out what's happening with her. With Carol, I would make her character feel more like the Ultimate Universe version of herself than really the modern day comic version of herself. I feel like Carol can be a little bit of a bitch, and that's fine. She'll be cocky. She'll have an ego, definitely something that will be her lesson, how to, not have a big ego, and not only that. Yeah, but pretty much just her ego issue. Like, oh yeah, she has an ego. She probably needs to chill out with that a bit and all that stuff. Would I neuter her? I mean, maybe I might tone her down a bit, because I feel like she might be a little bit way too overpowered in some regards. But overall, the movie, with those few tweaks, that's what I will do. I also make it a little bit more engaging. This will be directed by Aveda DuVernay, and this will be released November 5th, 2021. Now, the end credit scenes. One end credit scene will set up Miss Marvel as Kamala Khan is watching the events of Captain Marvel unfold on the TV, since it is being recorded on TV, and Kamala is inspired by Captain Marvel. This should lead us to our potential Miss Marvel series later down the road in the MCU. What's also going to happen, it has the second end credit scene, is that we're going to we're going to kind of tease Black Panther 2 by showing Namor and some Atlanteans, being there, watching, like, setting up some sort of plan of raging war against the surface world. And the final end credit scene will be about this woman that sees Captain Marvel, and she reads in Kree text that Captain Marvel is a dangerous criminal and a threat to them, and she reads Carol. So that could be a big stinger, and that'll set up Captain Marvel 2. What I would do at Captain Marvel 2, if I make Carol find her lineage, because there will be a Kree generator. Since there's no Tesseract, since the Avengers at the end of Infinity War destroyed the Infinity Stones while also bringing everybody back, it'll be a Kree genetic generator that blows up in her face, and it activates her genes of being half Kree. So Carol is gonna go in space and try to find her mother, and where this half where this half of her is, and what it is, and what why where who her mother is, pretty much. Now, Black Panther 2 is going to be directed by Ryan Coogler, and it will be released May 6th, 2022. And, since this is fantasy booking, and the whole Chadwick Boseman situation, let's just say in this fantasy booking timeline that Chadwick Boseman didn't die just for the sake of a pitch of Black Panther 2 that will have T'Challa in it. But pretty much, Wakanda is suffering from earthquakes. T'Challa and his crew are trying to find out what's going on. They find out Atlantis is actually real, but it's not near the States. It's near Wakanda. Black Panther tries to talk to Namor about what's going on, and Namor says he wants to wage war with the surface. But T'Challa tries to make sure that Namor doesn't start a war with the surface and tries to plead with Atlantis to not start it. Killmonger is still alive in this movie, but he doesn't agree with Wakanda. He doesn't agree with Wakanda, and he feels like the Atlanteans are threatening the people of Earth and that they should fight back because they should be threatened by people like the Atlanteans. And he teams up with Craven. Craven, who's been a master hunter and has had a conspiracy that Atlanteans are indeed real, and he wants to be the first person to chop one's head off, specifically aiming at Namor. Killmonger tells him the situation in Wakanda, and Craven is interested because Killmonger and Craven feel like that Earth and the surface world should take out Atlantis for good because they feel like they are a very big threat and that if they don't fight back, the Atlanteans will fight back. So Killmonger will play more of a Magneto role where he's going to be bad, and then later on he turns to good and help Wakanda stop Craven from his evil plot and prevents the war from happening. And yeah, so it's gonna be like Killmonger's gonna have this mindset and he's gonna find something where Craven will do something where Killmonger doesn't agree with, and he decides to not help Craven anymore. Of course, I decided to pull Craven because a lot of people have been throwing out who could be a potential villain for Black Panther, and I think Craven will definitely fit for that. Now, Killmonger doesn't exactly go Wakanda towards the end, but he does, he helps Wakanda, but he leaves them because he thought they were weak, and they only reacted when they were getting attacked instead of going in headstrong. So he still keeps his philosophies, but, he has his own way of doing things, and he's not going to be relegated to one person. The end credit scenes will show Atlantis being a part of the UN once and for all, with Namor representing his people of Atlantis. And the second end credit scene will be teasing leftover scrolls from Captain Marvel, Rogue Skulls, planning to take over the Earth. Wanda says they'll never see it coming, and he transforms into Nick Fury, highlighting that Nick Fury has been missing for a while, and that this scroll has been taking the form of Nick Fury. This leads us into Fantastic Four Secret Invasion, directed by Taika Waititi, and it will be released July 8th, 2022. The Fantastic Four team up with Talos to find some rogue skulls who stayed on Earth and are planning to take it over. This will have, Namor, not Namor, Talos and his wife pretty much team up with the Fantastic Four because Captain Marvel is like, oh, the Fantastic Four helps, and she's busy doing her own thing, trying to find her mother. And ultimately what happens with that is the Fantastic Four and Talos are trying to find out the scrolls. The scrolls are transferred to everyone, so it leads into this kind of thriller thing, sci-fi thriller, with the Fantastic Four trying to find out these scrolls and trying to stop them from their invasion on Earth, and with Talos and his wife. Ultimately, at the end of the movie, Talos will die, and there will be some connecting theme of Reed and Sue's relationship to Talos and his wife's relationship. And we'll also have a montage of the Fantastic Four dealing with threats on Earth and in space, showing the Fantastic Four are both Earth and intergalactic cosmic heroes in their own right. And ultimately, Talos will die at the end, and the Fantastic Four will stop the Rogue Skulls from taking over the Earth and turn them in, and also find all the bodies that they've hid when they transformed into people. And they also find that Nick Fury has been completely gone for the past, few years at this rate. Nick Fury, he wasn't even like he was knocked out. All right, we're gonna set up that Nick Fury has had no idea about what on earth happened. Like Nick Fury, he didn't know exactly what happened. I want to set up that the scrolls, I want to say that the scrolls were probably on Earth or a little bit earlier in Talos, and ultimately the rest of the race started to come over. And these rogue skulls have been on Earth for actually a longer time than Talos and his team were. But and that they were, let's say they were the top pilots or top space astronauts for their respective scrolls, and they returned and they presumed them dead, and then that's when the Kree attacked the scrolls, and that's when they started to go on the run. And so yeah, and we're going to acknowledge that Nick Fury, the normal Nick Fury, hasn't been awake and hasn't known any of the events that have happened since Avengers Rise of Ultron. So Nick Fury had no idea what's happened in Phase 3. He asked, where's Tony? Where's the rest of the Avengers? And the Fantastic Four try to fill him in on what he has missed over the past few years, ever since he's been taken out and has been taken over by a Skrull, which is why we rarely have seen Nick Fury in the Phase 3 movies, is because why would the Skrull have any need to do that? So that could be a little interesting thing that we could throw in there. Now, in terms of the end credit scenes, what will be about the TVA finding disruptions in the timeline, and they find a file on a person, and they're like, who is it? And they're like, it's this guy named Loki. So they're like, oh, it's Loki that's causing these disruptions. Let's arrest Loki and stop him from doing what he's doing. And the other end credit scene sets up WandaVision with Wanda feeling sad over Vision. And Quicksilver's like, are you going to be okay? And Wanda's like, yeah, she'll be fine. And Wanda starts to hallucinate a bit, seeing Vision say hi to her. And she blinks again. She sees nothing, teasing WandaVision a bit. And that's going to be these two end credit scenes for Fantastic Four Secret Invasion. Has me leading straight into Loki, which will be directed by Robert Rodriguez. I think I said Taika Waititi will direct that one, and it will be released July 8th, 2022. But if I did it, that's what's happening with Fantastic Four. Loki will be directed by Robert Rodriguez, and it will be released November 11th, 2022. It will be about the TVA arresting Loki for crimes that he has done that have potentially threatened the timeline. However, Loki is confused because he hasn't threatened the timeline yet, and they start to realize that they don't know what's going on, but they know that Loki in some way has indeed messed up the timeline. So Loki decides to work with the TVA to let go of his sentence that the TVA has put on him, and he decides to help them find out this disruption in the timeline. This, of course, will introduce Lady Loki, and this will set up that Loki, he doesn't feel right at home in New Asgard or on Earth. He feels like he doesn't belong there, and people don't trust him. He's like, well, obviously they don't trust me. And he's like, and he shows that habits. He feels like he can't be him. And then the TVA arrests him, and ultimately later on in the movie, while he teams up with them, he realized that his calling is more to work with the TVA than to stay in New Asgard with his brother. And ultimately, Loki will choose to work with the TVA, even after his sentence was lifted for what he helps them with the time disruption, which indeed will be Lady Loki, not Loki. And ultimately, Thor accepts that, and he's like, I'll see you soon, brother. And Loki's like, yeah, see you soon. And he decides to leave with the TVA. Now, end credit scenes will be one would set up WandaVision a bit more, with the TVA realizing that reality is slowly breaking, and they're like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, it's this big threat to reality, and they're like, what is it? And they say that it is Wanda Maximoff who is destroying reality. I hope I didn't mess up her name. I'm pretty sure that's what they call it, Wanda Maximoff, but Wanda is pretty much causing reality damaging stuff, and we don't know what exactly that reality damaging stuff is yet, but that's what we're going to set up in WandaVision, which we'll set up in we'll talk about in another video about Disney Plus series. And another end credit scene teases mods. Yeah, that's, I think, yeah. Another end credit scene teases vampires killing people, and ultimately, we'll have this like old man take them out, and they're like, "There's too many of you guys," and he's like, "Oh man, I really need help with this stuff." And what's going on, and pretty much, and so we'll tease Blade in the MCU by throwing in, "Oh, vampires are in the MCU. What the heck is going on?" And this leads us straight into Blade. Now, Blade is pretty straightforward. This will be directed by Jordan Peele, and it'll be released May 5th, 2023. So what's going to happen? This is more of the origin of Blade in the MCU, how Blade became the vampire killer that we know him as, and what's up with him, and how all these events correlate to the MCU. How does Blade integrate to the MCU? And that's what this movie will be about. Will be the origin of Blade in the MCU, and pretty much all like his whole origin story. And yes, he will face Dracula as his main villain, or I have a better idea. He'll face Morbius as the main villain of Blade. With yes, and yes, I will have Jared Leto play Blade and Mahershala. Not play Blade. Imagine, but yeah, Mahershala Ali will play Blade, and Jared Leto will play Morbius. And yes, I'd like to throw in Morbius and not Dracula. Because why the hell not? Why not make Blade fight Morbius? Because there was an end credit scene in the original Blade that was took it out, or old scene that they cut out where they teased Morbius. So why not just do it here? The MCU probably has the rights to do it. So why the heck not? Now when it comes to end credit scenes of Blade, there'll be another end credit scene teasing WandaVision, where Quicksilver is worried about what's happening to Wanda and what's going on with her, and that's something like reality isn't the same. And then number two, we'll see Doctor Strange find out, hey, reality is not what it's supposed to be. Something's going on. Reality is quickly breaking, and Doctor Strange decides to find out what's happening, and realizes it is Wanda. So he tries to go to Wanda to see what's happening with her, because reality is starting to not be right. Like things are starting to come off. This will lead us straight into Doctor Strange in the House of M, directed by Sam Raimi. Release date will be July 7th, 2023. And the story is Doctor Strange tries to revert the universe back to when Scarlet Witch freaks out, where Wanda freaks out and creates a universe where superheroes don't exist. Meanwhile, Mephisto drains Scarlet Witch's power to feed his own the more the alternate universe exists. So what happened is events in WandaVision is going to lead to something similar to No More Mutants, where she's going to say no more superheroes, or no, where she's going to say no more superhumans, because she freaks out because something happens in WandaVision, which I will explain the Disney Plus thing. And ultimately, we'll be shafted into the alternate universe where the MCU is now this universe where superheroes don't exist. And we could really go places like this is an alternate reality. So because superheroes don't exist and supernatural beings don't exist, Tony Stark is still alive or something like that. And we could see where all our characters would be if superpowers don't exist, or supernatural stuff didn't exist. We'll have Peter Quill on Earth. We could go really crazy where we have Peter Quill, who's a successful businessman that, instead of Stark Tower, it's Quill. Instead of Stark Industries, it's Quill Industries. And, Tony, who's just kind of like the person that works for Peter Quill. We could really go wild with this alternate dimension. And Doctor Strange is the only one that remembers what the MCU is, because of what Wanda did, and now she's trying to make Wanda not only snap out of it, but Mephisto, because Wanda made a deal with Mephisto because she was too heartbroken with the events of WandaVision. And he's like, all right, you know what? I got you, Wanda. I will, make a deal with me and just say this thing. And with your power in mind, so we can make this a reality. And ultimately, Wanda is with Vision in this universe. And Doctor Strange is trying to make her, break out of this reality where Vision also, exists. And ultimately, it'll be Wanda having to let go of Vision, and us having to, see the MCU in a very different light. Peter Parker's part of a gang. I don't know. You could go really crazy with an alternate universe and do very different things, especially with a universe where superheroes don't exist. Like, what would our characters be like in this universe? where they're when they're not superhuman, and Doctor Strange is the only one that can recover from this because he's the Sorcerer Supreme and he's trying to make Wanda break out of this reality because Mephisto is draining it, and Mephisto's gonna become powerful, and all this stuff. And ultimately, Doctor Strange and Wanda are able to stop Mephisto. And heck, we might even have a cameo from Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield talking to our MCU Peter Parker. Not what Andrew Garfield doesn't make sense because Tasm existed. So we got Tobey Maguire make a cameo, and maybe even Hugh Jackman. Why not? Just go extremely wild with the House of M. Make the alternate universe Wanda creates with Mephisto just very different from the MCU, and make it just like again an AU, just something very different from what we're usually used to. And ultimately, Wanda says things back, and Doctor Strange tries to help her with her pain and all this stuff and everything she's going through, and he hugs her, relieving her of all this stress and stuff that has happened to her and everything and all that type of stuff. So we'll have that, and and yeah, that's pretty much what's going to happen in that movie. Is that overall Wanda will calm down, and she'll have to let go of Vision because she realizes that their reality, Vision is just not going to live because the Infinity Stone, he did die in Secret Wars. He didn't come back, and they weren't able to build him again because he was just completely destroyed. Like Thanos completely destroyed Vision. Like not only did he take the stone away from Vision, but he absolutely completely destroyed Vision's body. Vision couldn't exist anymore. And because the Avengers also destroyed the stones into which they can't bring him back, Wanda officially has to let Vision go for good. Vision isn't coming back. And I mean, that we could have an amazing send off with Vision, just ultimately saying, all this stuff. And I feel like this could be a cool way to end Phase 4. It isn't an Avengers movie, but it is a Doctor Strange too. And it's going to have alternate universe and all this stuff. And Wanda trying to get it over. Now, I don't know exactly what to do for Doctor Strange and in the House of M end credit scenes because I don't know. Like, Phase 5 is so reary. You could take this literally anywhere post Doctor Strange 2. So I have no idea. I'm going to just leave it up in the air for now and completely focus on a different video for Disney Plus series. So what were your guys' thoughts on my Phase 4 in the MCU? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Do you have any criticisms and all this stuff? Tell me in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.